Terrorism has no religion. It's a phrase that echoes across newsrooms, social media, and public speeches every time tragedy strikes. The words are meant to comfort, to remind us that the actions of a few do not define the beliefs of millions. After every major attack, this phrase is rolled out, urging us not to blame entire communities for the violence of a handful. It's a call to resist knee-jerk reactions and to remember our shared humanity, even in moments of fear and anger. It's a call for unity, a plea to stop hatred from spreading and to build bridges instead of walls. Communities come together, holding vigils and peace marches, determined not to let violence tear them apart. But let's be honest, many people roll their eyes at this. Some feel the phrase is just a slogan, disconnected from the harsh realities they see on the news. When attackers shout religious slogans or claim to act in the name of faith, denying any link to religion can feel dishonest or even naive to many observers. We're caught between wanting to prevent collective blame and facing the reality that many terrorist groups use religion to justify violence. It's a complex, uncomfortable truth that can't be ignored. So, how do we move forward? How do we have honest conversations without fueling division or misunderstanding? The answer isn't to simply repeat slogans, but to look at the facts, separating the actions of violent groups from the beliefs of billions of peaceful people. We need to understand the difference between faith and fanaticism. Let's dig into what terrorism really is, what motivates it, and what the data actually shows, so we can respond with both clarity and compassion. First, what is terrorism? It's violence or the threat of violence against civilians, designed to create fear and force political, ideological, or religious change. Unlike war between armies, terrorism targets ordinary people, at markets, concerts, or on buses, to send a message far beyond the immediate victims. The randomness is the point, to make everyone feel unsafe. Not all violence is terrorism. A bank robber wants money. A terrorist wants to terrify and influence society. Terrorism is psychological warfare, grabbing headlines and spreading fear. The ideology behind it can be political, ethnic, or religious. Sometimes it's ethno-nationalism. Sometimes, as we see often, it's cloaked in religious language. Understanding this is the first step to a real conversation. So, how does the US decide who's a terrorist? The State Department maintains the Foreign Terrorist Organization, or FTO list. Being on this list has serious consequences. It's illegal for Americans to support these groups. Their assets can be seized, and they're cut off from the US financial system. The designation also signals to other countries that these groups are global threats. The process is formal. The Secretary of State reviews evidence, and only foreign groups that threaten US security make the cut. This list isn't random, it's a key indicator of which groups the US sees as the world's most dangerous. Let's see who's on it. When you take a close look at the Foreign Terrorist Organization, or FTO list, one thing immediately stands out. Most of the roughly 70 groups named are Islamist extremist organizations. This is not a coincidence, but a reflection of the current global security landscape and the threats that have shaped US policy over the past few decades. Groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, Hezbollah, Boko Haram, and several others have made headlines for years. They use a violent interpretation of Islam to justify their actions, often targeting not just outsiders, but fellow Muslims as well. Their reach and influence have spanned continents, leaving a trail of destruction and fear. South Asian groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed are also included, highlighting the ongoing violence and instability in that region. These organizations have been responsible for attacks that have shaped regional politics and security for years. These aren't just names on a list. They represent real-world attacks, casualties, and communities left devastated. Each group's inclusion is based on a documented history of violence and loss. Now, here's something just as important to notice. There are 0 Christian or Hindu groups on the FTO list. Not a single one has been designated by the US government. While individuals from any faith background can and do commit acts of violence, no Christian or Hindu group has met the US government's strict criteria for this particular designation. The process is rigorous and based on evidence, not assumptions. The data is clear. The FTO list is overwhelmingly dominated by one category of extremist ideology. and this is reflected in official reports and statistics. This isn't about reinforcing stereotypes or singling out a religion. It's about documented facts, government records, and the reality of global terrorism as it stands today. But what does this mean for people on the ground? What does the real-world impact of these designations and the violence they represent actually look like for ordinary civilians? To understand the scale and scope, let's take a closer look at the numbers and see what the data reveals about the true cost of extremist violence. The FTO list is one thing, but who causes the most deaths? Global data shows that Islamist extremist groups are responsible for 80–95% of terrorism-related fatalities worldwide. Groups like ISIS, the Taliban, Al-Shabaab, and Al-Qaeda affiliates are behind most attacks and deaths. Their reach is global, and their violence is staggering. Other forms of terrorism, far-right, separatist or political, do exist, but account for a much smaller share of global deaths. This doesn't make those tragedies less important, but it's crucial to understand the scale. The uncomfortable truth: the deadliest groups today claim to act in the name of Islam, even as most victims are Muslims themselves. We have to hold two truths. Islam is not inherently violent, but the most active terrorist groups today use its name. Ignoring this reality helps no one. Headlines can distort reality. They often reduce complex events to a few words, shaping our perceptions before we even read the details. Take Nigeria, December 2025. A U.S. airstrike was announced as targeting ISIS terrorists killing Christians. The story made global headlines, sparking outrage and debate. But the bomb hit Jabo, a mostly Muslim town with no known ISIS presence or history of anti-Christian violence. Residents were shocked and confused by the attack. Local leaders said Muslims and Christians live peacefully there, working together and sharing daily life without conflict. The American narrative didn't match the facts on the ground. Journalists who visited found a very different reality than what was reported. Nigeria's violence is real. Boko Haram is brutal, but most of their victims are Muslim, not Christian. The suffering is widespread and often misunderstood. Simplifying the conflict as Muslims killing Christians is not just wrong, it's dangerous. It fuels division and misunderstanding, both locally and abroad. It ignores the real victims and can lead to disastrous decisions, like bombing peaceful communities that have nothing to do with terrorism. The violence in Nigeria is driven by poverty, ethnic tensions, and corruption, not just religion. These deeper issues rarely make the headlines. When we rely on headlines instead of facts, we risk making things worse. Quick judgments can have lasting consequences. The truth is always more complicated than the narrative. To understand the world, we have to look beyond the headlines and seek the full story. So, where does this leave us? Terrorism has no religion is well-intentioned, but reality is more complex. No faith teaches terrorism, and billions practice peacefully. Blaming all for the actions of a few is unjust. But the data is clear. The deadliest terrorist groups today claim to act in the name of Islam. Ignoring this fact prevents us from understanding and countering the threat. The Nigeria case shows why facts matter more than headlines. The world is messy, conflicts are rarely simple, and extremists exploit religion for their own ends. The best weapon against terrorism isn't just force, but knowledge and understanding. We must reject collective blame, stand with victims, and have honest conversations, even when the facts are uncomfortable. Only by facing reality can we hope to defeat extremism. Facts, not fear, must guide us.